From the impeachment trial of Donald Trump to a historic election with record turnout, 2020 was full of political headlines. Karen Caifa has more.
2020 marked the 59th presidential election year in the U.S. and just 16 days into January, it became clear this year would not be typical.
It's a hoax. It's a hoax. Everybody knows that.
Senators took an oath for President Trump's impeachment trial. The House of Representatives had charged him with abuse of power and obstructing Congress.
We began just the third presidential impeachment trial in American history.
The impeachment vote loomed as President Trump delivered his State of the Union address, cheered by Republicans. Decidedly cooler with Democrats. They seemingly ignored handshake, a deliberately ripped up speech. The next day, the Senate acquitted President Trump. With the trial done, the campaign trail called.
Iowa, you have shocked the nation.
Pete Buttigieg won the Iowa caucuses, though voting delays overshadowed the win. Bernie Sanders won the New Hampshire primary. Joe Biden was fourth in Iowa, fifth in New Hampshire. Then South Carolina's win turned the tide.
This is your campaign.
By April 8th, Joe Biden became the presumptive nominee, just as politics took a dramatic new turn. The death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man at the hands of police officers, as well as similar deaths across the country, sparked nationwide protests.
I am your president of law and order.
President Trump opted for a show of force after authorities used tear gas to push back peaceful protesters outside the White House. Joe Biden cited the Constitution and freedom of peaceable assembly.
We're going to not allow any president to quiet our voice.
In a pandemic, the candidates showed up differently. In June, President Trump held his first campaign rally since March in Tulsa. Crowds grew larger than health officials recommended. Biden chose virtual interviews and masked appearances. Democrats kept a socially distant convention while Republicans gathered at the White House. Then, political attention turned to the Supreme Court. Justices ruled 5-4 against the Trump administration's efforts to end DACA, the Obama-era program that protects immigrants brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg joined the majority opinion. 3 months later, she died of complications from pancreatic cancer, giving the president his third court nomination.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
That Rose Garden scene proved significant days later when some who attended tested positive for COVID-19, including the president.
Far left.
He had debated Joe Biden just 3 days earlier.
The president has no plan.
Now the president flew to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center for treatment. Days later, dramatically returned less than a month before the election. Record numbers were already voting early, electing the first non-binary and Muslim state legislator, the first black Missouri congresswoman, and the first woman and minority vice president. Though it took 4 days of counting before Harris and Biden were projected winners.
Folks, the people of this nation have spoken.
President Trump, who months before the election warned of voter fraud, continued to make unsubstantiated claims after the election. He unsuccessfully challenged results in courts and refused to officially concede. No White House welcome like one 4 years ago on the books. Unprecedented transition in an unprecedented year. In Washington, I'm Karen Caifa.